Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Shelbyville Now and this weekend wrap-up edition of July 13th, 2024. I'm David Thomas. This is Josh Blevins. Josh, another week. Another busy week.
It was a fairly busy week. I was all over the place this week.
Got a few things to talk about this morning, but we want to thank our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance here in Shelbyville. We appreciate them being a sponsor here for the weekend wrap-up. Let's pause and hear a word from them. We'll be right back, and Josh can jump in and tell us what's going on.
That will do it.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to thank Dennis Young Insurance and his gang out there on Madison Street for being one of our sponsors here at Shelbyville Now and allowing us to do this weekend wrap-up. And in case you're wondering what's going on with the football helmets, we just got through doing our sports show, our very first kickoff show for this season. And we want to encourage you to tune in at 9 o'clock on Saturdays to check up on the latest local sports news. Football season's getting ready to kick off, Josh. So in honor of that, we've got our helmets up.
It's time for football season. And in honor of that, I'm wearing a Titan shirt because I never wear a Titan shirt.
I know.
But it's football season.
It's football season coming up. But Josh, changing gears from football,
you
got a lot of stuff happening locally.
A lot of things that happen locally. Somewhere on my hat here, you may see an I voted sticker. Got a little sticker I wore today because I voted this morning. It's election season. August election, early voting is going on right now over at the basement of the Courthouse Annex, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on Saturdays from 8 to noon. And that's going on now through July 27th. Not a ton of stuff on the ballot, but different parts of our citizens fought over the years for the right to vote.
Right.
So I think every time there's an election, even, if you only got 2 or 3 things to vote on, I think get out there and vote.
All of these votes affect our lives.
They do.
One way or another.
Yeah. So it's, I think I voted on, there were some primaries for some of our state offices. I think there's primary for our senator, House representatives, and there was some road board stuff. So I think it's important to get out there and vote.
Yeah, for sure. And you'll get a sticker.
You'll get a sticker. You get this nice sticker you can put on your hat. So other than that, at the beginning of the week, our Shelbyville Police Department released their monthly report that they've been doing all this year.
Yeah.
And the biggest difference, which wasn't a huge difference, was total calls for service went up to 2,428 in June. Previous month, there were 2,322, so about 100 more calls in the month of June, which actually June has 1 day less than May, so they were even a little bit busier than they were in May every day. As has been the case, call response time is still amazing. Less than 5 minutes, you call for a Shelbyville police officer, and they're on the scene quickly.
They are, definitely.
Yeah.
Hats off to SPD.
Absolutely. Yeah. Their biggest call type this month, again, was traffic accidents, unfortunately, 93. And second biggest was domestic calls at 61, which that's been kind of an unfortunate trend. Both of those have been up there. So
when you look through the police reports, it's sad to see those type of calls. Yeah. That's 2 a day.
Yeah.
When you start looking at it, that's
too many.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah. But hats off to our police department on a great job again. Another great month, quick response times. And
I love this report they're putting out.
Yeah. The report's
simple.
Great.
It's simple.
You can look at it. You can see what they're doing. On the police beat, there was beginning of the week, they put out a press release. They found a body on Old Nashville Dirt Road. Lots of rumors and stuff behind the scenes, but we're waiting to get a final official report. We spoke with them earlier this week, and they're waiting to hear back from the medical examiner's office in Nashville. And once they get a final report from them, then they'll put out another press release and let us know what went on there. But just, another really sad situation there.
Tragic.
So,
very tragic.
Yeah. So In the week of meetings, start off Monday morning, 10 o'clock, over at the Planning Commission office. We had the first ever meeting of the newly formed Shelbyville Planning Commission Growth Committee. Not a big committee, 4 people on it, and they're trying to look even further into the future than our current planning commission is, and make some decisions that hopefully help us down the road with the growth that is coming, whether we want it or not. So let's be prepared and let's make some changes maybe that help us out. The biggest thing that I've been looking at and that they were discussing again was larger side yard setbacks. So you don't have houses, 10 or 15 feet apart, trying to set that minimum at 20 feet between houses. And then more green space requirements. If you come in and build a neighborhood, right now you only have to have 5% of the land space as usable green space, and they're looking at upping that to possibly 15%, which would be a big improvement for people buying into these neighborhoods. They may get a chance at more parks or playgrounds, or maybe have a clubhouse with a pool, or a few more amenities, rather than just throwing up row after row of houses. And
so this is basically to deal with the density issue.
It's to deal with the density issue, to cut down on it. I mean, we're not Murfreesboro or Nashville. We're not running out of land anytime soon. So why do we need to cram, a bunch of people right on top of each other? Let's give them a little bit of space in between.
Yeah.
So,
there's a comment, and Stephen Jordan is on. He tells us good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning,
Stephen. Question in regards to voting. What is the direction to take to look at, per se, Pat Marsh voting records? I guess any state voting record, you could go to the state website, and there's some other probably sites around. I know Conservatives of Tennessee probably has those voting records if you go there, Stephen, but it's a good resource. But I'd say just the state website, House of Representatives website.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is just paying attention throughout the year as these issues come up. Watch where your representatives voting, where they stand on these issues. But there's a lot of groups that put out report cards that kind of grade them based on what side of the aisle you're on. I'm sure there's maybe there's a liberal website that lists if they were liberal enough. But I know there's a lot of conservative websites that list how they voted on conservative issues.
Yeah, but it's good to be informed when you do go vote.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So this is an important factor.
Yeah.
Keeping up with those things is important in your decision process.
Right.
When you go flip that lever.
Yeah, it was a lot of buttons.
A lot of buttons. No levers.
There's no levers. Right. It was all buttons this time. So, yeah. So, so on the growth committee, that was pretty much it. There were some other things they're looking at that to me didn't bother me as much, but they were focused on the downtown business core. There's some issues with how the zoning regulation is written right now. You can only have one residential unit per commercial unit downtown, but there's some new places coming in there that want to split up and have multiple short-term rentals and stuff. So they've just got to rework some of their wording on that. So Tuesday, 7 p.m., I believe it was, we had the monthly county commission meeting.
That was a short meeting too.
It was a short meeting. I should have got the time for that. I want to say 20-some minutes, maybe. I mean, it was under half an hour. Under half an hour.
And this is like report time.
This is what would be the year-end meeting after the end of our fiscal year ends the end of June. And you're supposed to present your quarterly reports, and there's 10 departments that present reports to the county commission of where they're at. And of those 10, 3 bothered to show up at the meeting, and 30% showed up. Gotta say, not a big fan of that. These department heads and departments work for the county or paid by the county, and you kind of hope you only got to show up 4 times a year to do a quarterly report. My calculator of my hand, I count 4 quarters in the year, so it would be nice if more of them showed up.
Yeah, so that's transparency. You get to see these reports, and that's an important factor of elected representatives. I mean, when you're handling the taxpayers' money, it's a good thing to kind of report on what's going on in your department. So.
Yeah, and most of these are not actually elected. Some of them are elected, but a lot of these are just, employees of the county.
Right.
But yeah, they're working paid for by the taxpayers. So you'd think they would show up and tell the county commission what's going on.
Maybe everybody was on vacation, Josh.
Yeah, it was summertime. I'll give them that. But we've been to a lot of these, and turnout's not usually good. So most of them did have a paper report there that the commissioners could read. But if they had any questions, they had nobody they could have asked. Actually, the one of the 10, the economic development report, was not at the meeting, but it was emailed out after the meeting. We got a copy of it, a couple copies of it from a couple of our county commissioners. And it had a list of what the Shelbyville Partnership is working on right now in economic development, workforce development, tourism, Chamber of Commerce, and the foundation. But what caught my attention was the report that they had done, which was a housing, I don't even know what the official name of this report is. Our recommendations for new homes needed over the next 5 years. This was, I'm assuming, paid for by the partnership. Their logo's on the top of it, from an outfit called Next Move Group. And something I texted you about this week, and we discussed a little bit, was some of their projections to me, and I'm not a guy that does housing projections, they just seemed a little weird to me. So we'll just read a couple of them, and people at home can make their own mind up if they feel like this is happening. So in the next 5 years, they feel like there will be 116 new households per year moving into Bedford County with an average household income of over $125,000 a year.
So you're talking about six-figure incomes coming to Bedford County at that pace.
116 new a year. So that seems kind of high for the area, but maybe I don't live out in the county, and
maybe they're bringing businesses with them and jobs.
I hope so. And then next up on the ring was 68 new households a year moving into Bedford County, making $175,000 a year or more.
Again, some rich people coming.
These are some nice, well-paid people moving into the county. So, for these people making over $125,000 a year, they're expecting them to buy houses priced between $300,000 and $450,000. And the people making $175,000 a year, they're expecting them to buy houses between $450,000 and $650,000.
Okay.
So I'm going to point out the $300,000 on the lower one there. That's a starter home in town
it
right
is.
now.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they're building those in my neighborhood, and $300,000 gets you about 1,400 square foot. You're lucky if you got a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if I'm making over $125,000 a year, I'm hoping I might be getting more than a starter home.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting statistics to look at, and just to talk about, where are these people coming from? So I've got to believe they're moving from big cities to rural areas.
Maybe would have
to get out of hustle and bustle.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of jobs in the county that are paying $175,000 a year.
It's that hotel. We basically a hotel.
I guess. Yeah, they're living here and working somewhere else.
Yeah, working somewhere else. And the only problem with that, Josh, I see, and it's good to welcome new people to our communities, but when you start looking at the flood that's coming, maybe they're escaping the hustle and bustle, but they create the hustle and bustle here.
I might identify with that remark. I came out of the hustle and bustle, and now I brought it with me. It may be my fault.
It is your fault, Josh.
It could be.
Not that it's bad, not that it's bad, but
right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Next report that we got from someone that was actually there, we got our school report on TCAP numbers.
Yeah, we got those early in the week.
And then Dr. Garrett gave those out as well at the county commission meeting. A lot of comments on that post and a lot of discussion. I don't have any school age kids right now, so I don't really have a dog in the hunt anymore. But I don't want to beat up on our schools at all, because
they're at a disadvantage.
I think they're kind of we've got a lot of.
And I've talked to people in the system, and the issue that we have, and it's unique to our county, we have an enormous amount per capita of students. We've got over 9,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And a large percentage are not versed on English as well as others. Okay. So you have to have a certain amount of teachers that are able to teach in that capacity. And we have a shortage there, and you can't find them. Right. So what it does, it creates an effect on these tests when you got children that aren't able to comprehend what they're reading.
Sure.
And they can't take the test properly, so it brings your scores down.
Yeah, if you don't speak English and you're taking an English test, you're not going to score very well.
I don't know how else to say it, but that's a correction that's got to be made, or we're not going to dig out of this hole. And to do that, we've got to have the staff to do it.
Right.
And there's a shortage. You can't find that staff. I know Dr. Garrett has been struggling to get these specific teachers. And maybe there's a way in the future that we can start an academy of some sort or a specific school. It's just a situation that puts our county at a disadvantage. Even with that disadvantage, our scores improved from last year.
They went up from last year, and she actually read at the meeting, which I hadn't dug in further to those numbers. She went back to the 2021 numbers. If you compare the 21 numbers to last year,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a huge improvement in those numbers. So we're moving in the right direction. It's just getting where we want to get.
We've got
It's
to
just
get
it's a hard
this,
slog.
to get
Yeah.
this proper staff in place for this
Yeah.
English language barrier.
Yeah.
And the English as a second language, and then you have some economic challenges as well within our system. If you don't have the proper staff to handle it, the kids are going to suffer, and our test scores are going to go down. So it's a battle that the system has.
It is, yeah. So, but hats off to our teachers and our school system, because they did improve over the year, and they've continually been improving over the last 3 or 4 years. So, and hopefully they're headed in the right direction. They'll keep going that way. So,
school will start very soon.
It will.
In 3 weeks, we'll be right back at it.
We'll be right back in
It'll be a
school.
grind. Speaking of schools, which we'll get to later, but the Cartwright ribbon cutting was excellent.
It was a great ribbon cutting. We'll get there in just a minute. It's on the rundown. Last report we're going to talk about. This is my favorite report we get every quarter. This is the trustees report. And the good thing about this report is most of the financial reports we get, a lot of them are budgets and projections.
Right.
This is dollars and cents sitting in our bank account or going out of our bank account, as the case may be. Some of the interesting numbers to me on this is the year-end report from the just ended year that ended June 30th. We started the year with $88 million in the bank. That's pretty good. I'd like to have $88 million in my bank. But we ended the year with $118.8 million in the bank. So that's a pretty good little jump throughout the year. Things are moving in the right direction there. Debt service, which is the account we talked about a little bit last week. That's the one that we got our county city friction over. This is where most of our local option sales tax goes to. It's the account that we use to pay off the debt for building projects, basically capital projects. Is the account we use to pay for, that's going to pay off the debt for Cartwright School. They're still paying off the old the new jail on the north side of town. There, other construction projects. But the balance in that account went from $35.7 million to start the year up to $48.1 million. So that's a nice little increase.
Almost $13 million.
Almost $13 million. And let's see, we had in that account, $20.4 million flowed into that account in revenue. And then only $8 million went out in expenses, $7.96 million to be exact. So as we talked about last week, we've got a bit of a surplus happening in that account.
So we could bring these taxes down if we keep up this pace, Josh.
We tried that 2 years ago. We even had a vote on that. We lost on that to give that back to the people. So
maybe this wheel tax topic won't come up again since we're so flush now.
Well, we would hope it won't. So in the area of sales tax, which is again where we've had the friction at, local option sales tax, we collected $24 million total in local option sales tax in the year, and $7.1 million of that went out to our cities: Shelbyville, Bell Buffalo, Ward Trace, Normandy. Which means the balance of that, the county hung on to that. And as we've said, most of that goes into debt service, where it's growing the fund balance at the moment. And of that amount, actually an exact amount, 11.4 million of that 20.4 went into the debt service account. So,
okay. So Josh, looking at these numbers, you mentioned the surplus.
Yeah.
We obviously have it. In your estimation, without crunching the numbers, what kind of surplus do we have on an annual basis? Moving forward, if we continue the spending we are, the trajectory. I know you look at numbers, you're a numbers guy. So what kind of annual surplus do you see us having? I mean, it's a few $1 million every year that it's a few million.
It's going to be a lot less in the year that we just started. Not a lot less, somewhat less, because of the fact that we just borrowed that $10.4 million to build $9 million worth of construction projects. So we've got to pay that back over 3 payments over 3 years. So that's going to cut into that. But part of this having $118.8 million in the bank is that we earned just in interest last year. We earned $5.6 million just in interest.
Okay.
So, which that's a nice chunk of interest. So, and so a lot of dollars, a lot of dollar figures there.
Okay. So let's all right. We've got this surplus.
Yeah.
Let's say it's $5 million. I'm just throwing a random number out here.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the people that's listening out there today, what do you want to do with that money? Do you want to see this spent on roads, on improving education, improving emergency services, improving law enforcement, these foundational things that government is responsible for? I want to ask you sitting out there today, give us your input, just as an opinion. What do you want to do with the money? It's your money. So what do you want to do with it?
Okay, now the trick, I'll throw a wrench in your discussion. The trick is most of that surplus happens in the debt service account.
Right.
Anything once it's in debt service can only be used to pay debt payments.
Right.
So it's limited to being paid on capital projects.
What about the interest?
Interest, unfortunately, is the same
So
way.
we're trapped. It's got to be.
Interest,
We've got to use it to build.
You got to build stuff with it. Yeah.
What about building roads?
Roads don't count as a capital project, so you can't build a road with it. You can build another school. You can build. I think actually we're spending money on a architect this year because I guess we want to build a new big public safety building. I believe at least fire, and it may be fire and police, but definitely fire.
Yeah.
I think they want a new building for the fire department. So we've already allotted for the.
So that could be
architect.
Improvement to our emergency services there.
Yeah. So I think that may be the next big building project we see. The actual cost of that project hasn't, come out yet because they're just spending for the architect.
Yeah. I think that was
next
very
big
important
expense.
for our citizens to be involved in this process.
Oh yeah, that
Talk
absolutely.
to your commissioners. Tell them what you want done with this money.
Right.
I mean, whatever it is we got to build next, what is it going to be?
Right.
You guys have the input.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff we could build, and another school is not going to be too far down the pike because of the number of students we're adding every year.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But that was it at the county commission meeting. As we said, less than 30 minutes. So 3 out of 10 reports, and everybody else you got on paper. On Wednesday, we got the next quarterly report from the Better Bedford PAC, which we've been discussing on the show for the last few weeks.
You posted that up on Facebook that day.
We posted that up on Facebook that day. Big jump in their bank balance. They now have $80,000 in the bank to spend on local elections going forward, either this year or the 2026 election.
I think people need to understand what this is actually, what a PAC is.
Yeah.
It is a political action committee. And what political actions committees do is they raise money to fund campaigns of candidates or causes in the political arena.
Right.
Okay. And this particular PAC says they're nonpartisan. So that means they're not or affiliated with a specific political party.
Correct.
So that's what this is for. It's for funding campaigns for candidates or political causes,
or
whatever
causes
that might
of
be.
some kind.
So people need to understand this is not money coming into the government. It's a separate organization.
Right. And the people the candidates that they give the money to, they can't spend that on their BMW payment.
Right.
They got to spend it on
their
campaigns.
campaigns. That's what a political action.
Yeah. And hopefully people understand that. But if not, hopefully we explained it there really good. Now, the point I made in my post was I found it curious that 2 of the people on the list in the most recent quarter are currently in front of the county attempting to get a piece of property rezoned that rezoning may or may not be in the best interest of the rest of us here in the county. There's a asphalt plant on the north side of town, and they'd like to expand over towards 231. But we intentionally have what's called the Shelbyville Gateway Overlay, which is supposed to protect 1,000 feet of road frontage down each side of 231, so that when you drive into town, you get that rural kind of a country look. Right. So you're not driving into town past a bunch of factories blowing smoke up in the air or something to that effect.
Right.
You're supposed to get a nice entryway into town. But they're attempting to bypass that and get closer to 231 than is allowed under the current zoning regulations. And they chose to give money to this PAC for some reason. Were they trying to possibly get some candidates, elected that would be amenable to their rezoning. I mean, who knows? We can't say what their
Well,
what the reasoning was, but that's just something you look at when you look at a list of names like that.
Let's talk a little bit more about the list. You got some other notes
I
that you
had one.
posted
I
out
had
there.
one other one that I posted. Then you came up with something that we'll discuss too. There's also two of the names on the list are currently working on trying to get a PUD on Union Street that we've discussed many times. The Remington Farms,
Right.
which would be 715 units and 148 acres, which is about 2,500 people in a, what 148 acres is. That ain't huge. So basically the equivalent of the population of Bell Buckle, Wartrace, Normandy times about two and a half. So
Right.
yeah, huge amount of people in a small amount of space. So again, two of those people gave money to this PAC. One of them is not even a Bedford resident. So again, you kind of look at that and you say, man, if I don't live in Bedford, why am I investing money in Bedford politics?
I think if you look at this, Josh, the entire thing is basically building, okay, and growth as far as rooftops.
Yeah,
it seems like that everybody involved in this particular PAC is about building or projects or development. Okay, so I'm going to take it. That's what this PAC is about. Okay, so politically, if I'm in a business that's doing that, I want to have political alliances with the local government to make sure that I can get my stuff done.
Yeah, to get things passed.
As a business person, that's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely.
So that's what this PAC is. And I think that if you just look at it and keep a close eye on it, it's going to be about building. And this is directly tied in. It's all tied into the Shelbyville Bedford partnership.
Right.
When you look at it, you have your common threads there.
And that's the angle you found. You looked down the list, you said, hey, there's a bunch of people sitting on the board of the partnership that are now investing their personal dollars into this PAC. We've got the partnership asking for taxpayer money from the city and the county continuing to give them taxpayer money, the city not giving them taxpayer money at the moment. Are these people from the board of the partnership trying to influence the next election to get their people on at the city and get more taxpayer dollars put back into the partnership?
Well, you also look at the situation and all the slogans and all the branding.
Right.
It goes right to our county administration. Our current county administration. So this goes with it fits in with the agenda of the current administration in our county. So you've got all the development and all this type of stuff going out, and everybody wants a better Bedford County, and that's the objective of what all of us have. The definition of better is where you start to have different
ideas.
Where
you have different
viewpoints. Okay, so this is something that is going to be ongoing, and I think when people start to engage, and actually you start getting out in the community and ask, well, what is a better Bedford County? Right. What does that look like in your mind? You're going to have a lot of different viewpoints. Yeah. And some people think that it's just more rooftops automatically. That's going to be great for us. And some people will say, no, I moved here to escape the rooftops.
To get away from the rooftops.
Okay, so you have a lot of ideas converging. Okay. Yeah. And at some point, you got to have honest debate. Okay, you can't have it rammed down people's throat. You have to really sit down and define what is a better Bedford County. What does the overwhelming majority of people want here in Bedford County? And that's where representation comes in, John.
Right. Yeah, that's where
your commissioners. Yeah. And I just don't feel like in the past few years we've had an honest debate about what the actual people that are paying these taxes want. Right. And if this PAC can cultivate that environment where there's actual honest discussion about what the people of Bedford County want, then I'm all for it.
Right.
But at this point, the question mark's still raised. It looks like it's all about building. Okay.
Right.
And that's part of our future naturally, but there's a whole lot of other aspects to it.
There's a lot more to it. And as speaking as someone that's newer to the area.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't move to Bedford County so that I could end up in Murfreesboro South and be in a suburb of Murfreesboro. I moved here for the rural lifestyle, and I think a lot of other people did too. And a lot of people that have lived here for a lot of years, they like that rural lifestyle, and they're not necessarily looking to live in Murfreesboro. If they wanted to live in Murfreesboro, they would move to Murfreesboro. So
you got to have the right balance here.
You got to have a balance.
I think that the people that have been called and labeled anti-growth,
right?
The people that are aggressive and progressive in that area look and say, well, y'all are just a stumbling block. But actually, everybody could come together on this and say, look, Bedford County has its features that we don't want to see change.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side say, well, we've got to change, which change is a part of life.
We're going to have change.
We're going to have change.
We're not going to stop.
Okay.
Nobody's going to stop.
How we
change.
manage the change is what
Yeah.
gets to the crux of the issue.
Yeah.
So this political action group committee looks about like it's for growth in the development and building. Okay.
Right.
And that is a part of our future. But I want to see an entire community come together here and rally around the smart way for us to preserve what we have and look toward the future.
Yeah. And that's, I think, part of what we talked about early on today, the growth committee, that's what they're hoping to do is to look at this growth that's coming and say, hey, how can we grow, but do it in a smart way where we still maintain our identity and don't just turn into another cookie cutter city of people that live here and drive to Murfreesboro and Nashville and work and then drive home and work.
I don't think each community has its DNA.
Right.
When you start trying to change the DNA, something just gets out of kilter.
Yeah.
And we've got to be real careful because we are a rural county. That's what we are
right now.
Yeah. That's what we are.
Yeah.
And it's good to have industry. It's good to have good jobs for our citizens, and how that comes about. There's a debate about it.
There is. Yeah. There's definitely.
Didn't mean to get off on this too far.
No,
but
that's all right.
I don't want to do a disservice to this group.
Right.
Trying to just look at it and is having an objective approach to it. People have to come together, and you can't ramrod stuff down people's throat. You got to have an honest discussion. And I think going forward, that's the way we move.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. Thursday evening at about 5:00, I wasn't able to make it, but you were there. We had a big ribbon cutting.
Yes,
we got a
awesome
new
day.
school.
Awesome day. The Cartwright family was there. They had the mascot, their horse.
Yeah.
The gray horse, Mr. Johnson, Keith Johnson, Susie's husband, had his world champion walking horse there as the mascot because it is the Cartwright Colts.
Right.
And we had several give speeches, but the touching one was Susie talking about her family and the land there, how they acquired it, and how her parents would really be pleased with what they saw. And it's a fantastic facility, and a lot of people were there to kick it off and tour it, and it was a good afternoon.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful place. I went in early and toured it a few weeks ago, and it's it looks like a world-class elementary school. And just a few weeks, there'll be kids in there running through the halls and hopefully learning their reading, writing, and arithmetic and all them other subjects. So, yeah, it should be a good thing for the city and for the county.
One thing I saw that I had a concern about, Josh, and this has all kind of come together right here at the opening of the school, was traffic flow.
Right.
We've got a new traffic light. You got that posted up.
Yeah.
And we're telling people about it, where the bypass and Fairfield Pike come together.
Yeah.
And then you had the widening of the road, the turning lane, and the way the school's designed, it pulls the traffic into their property and gets it off the main road where it's not backed up on the road. That was pretty impressive, the way it was designed.
And the buses come in from the totally opposite end. They come in from, Calisonic Way or whatever. They're off from 231. So you don't have buses fighting with cars for, getting into the school. So it's really well designed.
Yeah, they did a good job of putting that together.
Yeah. So in a beautiful facility again. The reason I didn't get to the ribbon cutting, because just about at the same time, we had our monthly city council meeting down at the old Chamber of Commerce building. And it wasn't expected to be that exciting of a meeting. We just thought it would, everything would go through, would be a lot of yes votes, and we'd go home. And kind of out of left field, the city council voted unanimously, I think in both cases, to send 2 items back to the planning commission that the planning commission had just sent to them a couple weeks ago.
Right.
One was the Lexington Cove PUD, which is 274 units on 78.7 acres. Planning commission was unanimous on that as far as favorable, other than one abstain. One abstain, and the rest was unanimous. And then there was the 5 acres on Whitthorn. That's what is that?
Josh, I can tell you're not.
I can't ever pronounce that road. Whitthorn.
Yeah.
I can never pronounce that road right. It's right just north of Bedford Manor.
Yeah.
And there was an attempt to rezone that to R4. Planning was unfavorable on that, but by a split vote. I think it was like 5-3.
Yeah, I think the main issue there was that intersection. And
the intersection's awful,
Yeah.
and again, they were trying to squeeze 52
Yeah,
units,
a lot of stuff
and
in
it's
there.
only 5 acres. So they pushed that back to planning as well. So we'll see in a couple weeks.
Is this a tennis match here?
It's ping pong apparently. Yeah. So we'll see in a couple weeks what planning has to say. The Lexington Cove PUD, they didn't have a whole lot at the council meeting. They didn't really say anything negative about it. I mean, we've talked and also posted online on Facebook. There's a few things that we wish would get, cleaned up on that one, as far as a little better amenities.
Yeah. Green space expansion.
Green space expansion, and the fact that the actual houses are only 15 feet apart and the cottages are 10 feet. Honestly, I don't think, because there was no real explanation for the council, I don't see them fixing the spacing between the houses. That would cause them to have to cut down the number of units, and I don't see that one happening. I mean, I wish it would, but I don't see that happening. Green space, I would hope maybe they would work a little bit on the green space, maybe.
So what does the planning commission do now?
I guess they talk about it. They talk about it and revote, I guess. So, and then the road that I can't pronounce, Withorn, it the staff was negative on that as well, and planning. So I don't know if the council just didn't want to vote it down, or if they thought maybe there was some way to fix it. So I guess planning will get to discuss that as well.
But that one did come as unfavorable.
It was unfavorable, and even the planning staff said they didn't like that big development on that particular intersection.
Well, I mean, they could have just no voted this, but they're going to talk about it again, right?
Right. Yeah, they could have just voted no and turned it down, but instead it's still alive. So it's coming back in a couple of weeks. So they did, council approve the initiation of phase 1 of the Riverview District. Specifically, they allotted up to $185,000 to start acquiring property. The weird part of the discussion that I only got part of, because we didn't get the full paperwork on it of the presentation, is one of the lots is owned by multiple family members. And it looks like, from what I understood, from what they said, the city is agreeing to buy a 1/4 interest in that piece of property.
Okay.
So that means they don't own the whole piece of property. If you only own a 1/4 interest, I don't think you can do anything with a 1/4 interest. If you had a vote, the other 3/4 are going to override you.
With this interest, does that come with use of property unlimited? Or
I don't think so.
Would we have to lease from the rest?
They eventually have to talk the other 3 people into it. And to me, and I am totally not in the land acquisition business, so I know nothing about it. But if I were the guy holding one of the other quarters and I saw the city just paid for one of the quarters, I'd say, they're pretty committed to this. I think my price just went up. Yeah. So, I'd hold out for more money if it were me, but I'm not in the land business, so I don't know if that's how it works.
No, interesting. So we've got 25% of what
we own 25% of what we need to get started there. So we will once that deal gets
it's a beginning stuff.
We've started something. They also did approve the purchases of 3 items: that boiler for the rec center that died due to lack of maintenance, which they're attempting to go back.
They're going to go back.
They're still trying to go back and try to get their money back from the company that had the service contract on it. And then they went ahead and got the skid steer for the cemetery and the tractor mower for public works. So I'm sure both of those departments are will be happy to have those when they get them in. I think the skid steer is already here, and the tractor, I think, was ready. They just had to send them the checks. So both will be good for both departments. And that was it for meetings I went to this week. It was actually more than it seemed like. There was quite a few meetings. And I think after we hear from our sponsor, we might talk about what we have coming up in the upcoming weeks.
We'll be right back.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to thank Dennis Young Insurance for sponsoring the weekend wrap-up here on Shelbyville Now. And Josh, we got a big event coming up this next week. I see it here on your list.
Right on the
man, it snuck up on us. It's going to be that time again here in
It
Bedford
is
County.
Bedford County Fair Week this week. Yep, starting Monday, July 15th to Saturday, July 20th. So
Let me ask you, Josh, you going?
honestly, I probably won't.
It's hot, man.
Well, last year, do you remember last year's? It rained.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
And now this year we
We
paid to
need
have
rain.
rain. We need rain. Last year, almost every major event in last year's fair got rained out. The tractor
Let
pull
me
and
tell
all
you
the things that draws the people.
The way it is right now, when you walk around out on grass like that grass field, it sounds like you're stepping on potato chips.
It does.
I mean, it's crunchy.
Yeah, we're
Believe me.
officially in it. In the Weather Service, we're in a severe drought. I
Severe
believe,
drought.
officially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So maybe we'll get a shower. It'll cool off,
Yeah.
and we'll have enough rain, and this thing will go with good weather.
Yeah, I hope so. And they need a good year because, again, last year was
Yeah, it
terrible
was.
for them. And, I mean, they spend all year preparing for this. And to have a rain out like that, I'm sure was really disheartening for the people there. But
So you're not going to go out there and ride the teacups?
probably not. I may try to get out there for a few minutes. I like the fair, but I'm not a big fair person. I'm not going to lie.
I don't
just
like
not a big
crowds
fair-
myself.
I'm not a big fair person, but it's a good event
Yeah, it
and
is.
it's good for the family. You got the carnival rides. I think they usually don't they do the helicopter rides. They had those the year I was there.
They did last year. I
Yeah,
believe.
you got the ag exhibits. I think don't you get the tractor pull or whatever later
Yeah,
on? in the
tractor
week?
pull. There's a
So,
horse show. There was. I think there's still a horse
Yeah,
show.
there's a lot of stuff going on out there, especially if you've got young kids. I think is what it's
Yeah.
it would be really good for. And mine are grown and gone. So
Yeah, this is the biggest event for that facility out there.
yeah,
so
all
this
year
is it.
long. So this is it. So starting Monday through Saturday, get out to the fair, get your wristbands, get on the rides, have a good time. So, and then Tuesdays, 5:00 p.m. at the historic courthouse
The
downtown on the
historic
square.
courthouse.
We have the county committee meetings. They posted all those agendas recently. I read through them all. Nothing super controversial in there. The rules committee is still working on a rewrite of the bylaws for the county commission. I don't know if that will move forward this month or not. It's been on the agenda for.
Yeah.
They've been talking it for months.
You think that'll pass?
I think it'll pass eventually. I just don't know when it's ever going to finally get pushed up for a vote. So
Do you think we'll follow the bylaws?
I hope we follow the bylaws. That would be
Okay.
good,
Well,
too.
that would be some footnote I'd put in there. We need to follow the bylaws.
We should follow our own bylaws. That would be good. Other than that, the other thing that's been hanging on the agenda is a long time. Property committee still sitting on that the old workhouse building, and at some point they've got to decide whether or not they're going to surplus that building or not. So it continues to get deferred every time. So we'll see if they.
Well, if they're talking about building that other building, they can't start that other building until we get this surplus. Is that
No,
way it works?
the other building, because they approved the money, they're going to go
They
ahead
can
and
go ahead
build
and
it.
start
Yeah,
it.
they're going to go
Okay.
ahead and build it. Once that other one's built, I mean, it makes
Then you
no
can
sense to
surplus.
hang on to the workhouse.
Yeah,
building, 'cause-
that's when you move it over.
yeah, then you
Okay.
move it on. So, but other than that, that's all our government meetings we have this week. Nothing on the city agenda. I don't think nothing on my calendar. So actually there is, I'm probably not gonna be able to find it right off the top. There is an interesting little meeting Tuesday night that I probably won't be able to make it to because of the county committee meetings. But they announced at the city council, there's a special meeting Tuesday night, 6:00, discussing the city hotel motel tax. Apparently we have some RV parks in the city that are paying that tax and some that aren't paying the tax. So I would assume we'd like to have them all pay the tax. So I think they're having a little get together of some of those owners and saying, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
we have this little thing called the hotel motel tax. I think you're supposed to be charging it. So I think
Okay.
we're going to start out friendly. And then maybe if the
Yeah.
owners aren't so agreeable, then maybe we're going to get a
Yeah.
little more aggressive. So
Maybe the categorization. I think I know the ones, and most of those are long-term rentals. Not,
and they may feel like they don't
campground,
have to. So I don't know if you're in that industry and you're interested, that might be a meeting to go to. 6:00.
could
It'll
be.
be at the Old Chamber of Commerce building
Chamber
there
of
across
Commerce,
from the
yeah.
dinner table. So, and other than that, I got nothing else on my agenda next week. Go to the fair.
go to
You
the
got
fair.
all week long.
Yeah.
Get out there. Maybe one day it's not 99 degrees and it's comfortable. That would be the day to go if it
Yeah.
were me. So, and ride some rides, see some ag exhibits, eat some deep fried whatever they're selling. I'm sure they have all those
yeah.
healthy fair foods.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely healthy.
yeah. And other than that, we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
Same time, same channel, same place. And I'm sure we'll have more time.
Josh, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for watching. We'll see you.